Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date is July 12, 2022. New, early in June, there was a cyber attack on YouTube. My equipment went away, my channel went away. So this is a new channel. I have new equipment. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share. This is episode 343. Nukes in New York City. The U.S. bombs Russia, and we're literally on the brink, it seems, on World War III. And August. So some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot subscriber, Dr. William Michael Jaco, N Veniamin, who interviewed David Mahoney, Simon Parks, A Christoferou, Alexander Mercouris, Smoothie 12, Andre Martyakov, W77 Reality 365, Israeli News Live Plus. So I would like to welcome back all 50 states, including Alaska, Hawaii, the First Nations, Cherokee, Navajo, Hopi, Chickasaw, Mohawk, Apache, First Nation, Pitt River, California, Mohegans, Yakama Nation, in Washington State, Potawatomi, in the Midwest, Oklahoma, Ojibwe Nation in northern Minnesota, a proud people who want peace and justice. Choctaw, Abenaki Tribe, Cheyenne, Massanutten, Pequot, Blackfoot in Montana, Spokane and Coville, Powhatan, Seminoles in Florida, Red Crow Tribe in Kentucky, Salt River Tribe in Arizona. And welcome back the nations of Canada, England, France, Ireland, Philippines, South Africa, Netherlands, also called Holland, Indonesia, Scotland, Germany, Switzerland, New Zealand, Maldives, Nepal, Norway, Australia, Chile, Thailand, Belgium, Mexico, Brazil, Russia, Panama, Guam, U.S. territory, Jamaica, an Icelander living in Spain and other people in Spain, Wales in the U.K., Sweden, Italy, Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory, Romania, Bermuda, Bahamas, British territories, Morocco, Argentina, Northern Marianas Island, a U.S. territory, Denmark, Bolivia, Uganda, Iceland, Serbia, Bulgaria, Mauritius, a small island nation off of Africa, and the newest, Ukraine, Czech Republic, Poland, Costa Rica, Malta, China, Hungary, Israel, and Finland. So let's get started with our news. And we have a lot of it. It's amazing, the things that are going on. Okay, I had requests from several Patriot subscribers who are in other countries wanting to know about translation. And so YouTube has an auto translate. And the way you activate it is you go to closed captions, then you go to settings, and settings has that little gear icon. Then you go to subtitle, and then you choose, it'll bring up a list of languages, nations, and then you choose the language that you want. So I appreciate having subscribers in other nations. So I have a Patriot subscriber from New Zealand who's reporting the first monkeypox was reported in Auckland on July 8th. I have a Patriot subscriber in Canada talking about the internet's been down for 2 days. And I have another one in Canada is talking about Rogers Telecom is down now for day 2. The ATMs are out, but you can still get Bell Canada at home. Keep cash, for sure. Okay, I have a Patriot subscriber is talking about the Georgia Guidestones. Okay, now we remember the Georgia Guidestones are in Atlanta, Georgia. And nearby is a small town, Elberton. So my Patriot subscriber says within 12 hours, they razzed the Georgia Guidestones to cover up that there was no bomb. I was in Elberton the night of the storm. It was an act of God. So, this Patriot subscriber says it was lightning. We had also suspicious observers. Ben Davidson, it's a science-based space weather program, brought out immediately that it appeared to be a lightning strike. Now, I'm not quite sure why the deep state wanted to cover up that it was an act of God. I guess they want to diminish what God can do. But I would also like to bring this out, that this was in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is also the location of a shadow part of the U.S. military that's based at Fort McPherson in Atlanta, Georgia. This information comes from Dr. William Mount, ex-military, former ambassador to Ukraine. Okay, and then we have Dabu 77 talking about the Georgia Guidestones. Oh, and somewhere, I guess in that same area, there had been buried a time capsule, and they tried to dig it up, and it's gone. So, I'm believing that there's more to the story than this little caption. So we'll see in the future. Okay, the death of Abe Shinzo. He had been a former prime minister in Japan, and it's coming out now. He's a friend of President Trump. He's part of the White Hats. So it appears now, I have a Patriot subscriber who says, fake death. I have a Patriot subscriber who says, yeah, and other sources. Simon Parks, Dr. William Mount, David Mahoney, interviewed by N Veniamin, all are coming out. It appears to be a fake death, and that Abe was a white hat working with President Trump. Okay, so now we have this. We have Michael Jaco, former Navy SEAL, 24 years, 11 years CIA, CIA security. Also had a personal event with the Archangel Michael while Michael Jaco was Navy SEAL. He was actually killed by a missile, and during that process, the Archangel Michael came to him, pushed time back, stood over Michael Jaco, and deflected the missile that would have killed him. So, yeah, Michael brings out truth. Okay, he's talking about he's received information that the leader of France, Macron, who we understand now is actually a double, has been asked to resign. And we know now that the White Hats are taking action all over on a global basis. We saw Boris Johnson, the leader of Prime Minister of England, recently resign. Macron, we understood, was next in line, and so this is coming out. And that in Sri Lanka, which is a small island nation, 22 million people off of the tip of India, that president resigned and fled the country. And we found out that Sri Lanka, the government did not pay money to the Rothschilds I guess that was some kind of banking issue. And so the Rothschilds cut off shipping of goods and energy to Sri Lanka. Now those 22 million people have nothing on their grocery shelves, and the power grid is going down, and gasoline is going away. So, yeah, that's going on. So we wonder what nations are going to step up now to help Sri Lanka. And we also have a question in our minds: what is Sri Lanka's military doing? So we'll see. Now, Michael Jaco is saying that, yeah, we're going to be seeing global resignations of leaders, and this would also include in the U.S. JB, who we know is an actor. Now, we had another source that said 40 states are in the process of decertifying the November 2020 event. So we know that things are in process then for JB to resign and President Trump to publicly come forward. And he's been functioning as the commander-in-chief of the good part of the U.S. military since March of 2021. All right. And in Italy, also the Prime Minister is asked to resign, as is the leader of the Netherlands. And we know the farmers and all the people in the Netherlands, also called Holland, are in full revolt. So, because the deep state government said, oh, we want to take over 80% of the farms. No. The people are rising up. Okay, now, A Christoferou is bringing this out about Norway. And I found it curious that here's Russia, here's the Arctic, and over here we have Ukraine, we have Finland, Sweden, Norway. That Norway had control of some islands in the Arctic, Svalbard Islands. And Russia has a mining group there they've had for 40 years. Russia wanted to resupply. Norway was blocking Russia from resupply. Now, what's being worked out is Norway is going to take the supplies from Russia, and they're going to resupply Russia's mining group in the Arctic. I find it curious. Norway, aligned with NATO, is still blocking Russian ships from the Arctic. So something's going on there. Okay, now, Canada, is putting forth more sanctions against Russia. Russia blocking Russian news outlets like RT and Sputnik, but also sanctioning the leader of the Christian Orthodox Church in Russia. I think when a nation rises up to sanction God, they've gone maybe a little bit too far. Okay, we have Alexander Mercouris, the journalist in London. All right. Saying the UN, and I found this shocking, actually did an investigation and found guilty Ukraine for its shelling and killing of civilians. Okay. This is also coming out from Alexander Mercouris that Russia has destroyed 2 HIMARS, which are long-range missile weapons given to Ukraine by the U.S. Very expensive. Russia's destroyed 2 of them. So the U.S. now, on July 11, is going to up it. And we're going to give you 4 of the HIMARS. So long range, and you can shoot from Ukraine into Russia. we'll see how this plays in. Okay. Smoothie times 12, Andrei Mahoney, a retired Russian military analyst, is bringing this information out about Belgorod. And I would like to refresh the memories of my Patriot subscribers and other viewers that I put forth the philosophy that the news is orchestrated. And I believe it's orchestrated on both sides, the white hats and the black hats. And it's useful to do that. Okay. So these things are all playing together. Now, so Andrei Martyakov, former Russian military analyst, is coming out with information about Belgorod, this huge new submarines. And there's two of them, one for the Pacific and one for the Atlantic. And he had been giving out for the past few days different locations where Russia could send bombs from subs, and I had wondered about that. So now we know he was talking about this system. One location he gave, like New York, here we have Africa, the sub, and he was talking about this subsystem could send, a weapon to inside the U.S. in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And they could also send one to Norway and one to Spain. So something's going on with Norway and Spain. All right. And New York. And we'll get to it. And I would like to stress that Russia is aligned, President Putin is aligned with President Trump, Chairman Xi, Prime Minister Modi of India, and other leaders, and an allied white hat force against the deep state. Okay. Now, so what Andrei Martyakov is saying about this Belgorod subsystem. Okay, they have these weapons called Poseidon, and I know I've had Patriot subscribers who say, I've read a lot of sources that there are no nukes on Earth. Okay. I believe that there are still nukes on Earth that have that old-fashioned system of the radioactive material, uranium, and so forth. I believe there are still some. But there are also newer nuke-like weapons that certainly are capable of killing and destroying just as many people as the original uranium-type nukes. So when we say nukes, I'm referring, could be the old ones, could be the new ones, but they're definitely bombs. All right. So now, Poseidon is an autodrome with a speed of 7 nautical miles per hour and can easily outrun U.S. torpedoes. And it has a non-nuke warhead. It's using conventional weapons, but still can devastate. And it has several metric tons of power. It can travel at a depth of 1,000 meters, which is 3,000 feet, and can travel a distance of 10,000 nautical miles. So, Martyakov when he was giving those distances in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, hit the U.S., hit Norway, hit Spain. Yeah, he's talking about this kind of weapon. Now, he's talking about, and other sources are coming out talking about Zelensky saying, oh, Ukraine's going to have a 1 million person army, and in August we're going to do this offensive. Now we're understanding that inside Ukraine, they're running out of warm bodies. So now they're going to recruit dissidents who are from Russia and Belarus. And women, because, Zelensky has sent most of the men from the age of 14 to 60 into the front lines to just be killed. Now they're going after the women. All right. So we have talk about different areas. And Martyakov is talking about some things inside Ukraine, and that, Russia has weapons that can take those out. All right. Now we're going on to what's going on inside Ukraine. So we have Luhansk, Donetsk, this is the Donbass area, Mariupol, we have Odessa. Over here we've been hearing about that little island, Snake Island. We have Crimea. All right, now we have Kiev. Now this came out a couple of days ago about Belarus, and that Russia was amassing troops and equipment. Now Belarus, about 8 months ago, is when I was taking a short nap, that the name of Belarus came to me, Lukashenko. I didn't know what that was. And I looked it up. It is a type of hat, and I thought, well, that's kind of odd, And then I found out it's the leader of Belarus. So 8 months ago, from God, comes the name of the leader of Belarus. So we need to see what they're doing. Okay, we have this front line, and we had that information from Decode that Ukraine at the beginning, that would have been late in February, of this special military operation, which now we understand may be kicked up from that designation by Russia to a W word we're familiar with. Okay. So Decode said in the beginning that Ukraine had 220, that was military, and something like 450,000 reserves and National Guard and whatever. So, it came out to be about 700,000, and Decode says 80% of this number from February, this is now July, have been killed, wounded, or captured by Russia. So when, and Decode says of Zelensky, he's not human, so, and we know he's in working with the shadow part of the U.S. government and the shadow part of the U.S. military and the shadow part of NATO, the deep state who want to get World War III going. Okay. Who do not care about the Ukraine people at all. Throw them all out there on the front line. And Russia has been trying to minimize the taking down of the Ukraine people, but the psychopath leaders of Ukraine, Send them all to the front line. Now we want to send the women too. All right. So, now these areas, Bakhmut and Severodonetsk, are two towns in line with this front line, which was Izium, Slovansk, and then Kramatorsk. And these are two smaller towns that are being taken by Russia. The fighting is intense, the shelling is heavy, and the Russian forces have taken out some ammo locations where the West had sent ammo for the HIMARS, and Russia has taken those out. Now, this is coming out that supposedly maybe the leader of the entire special military operation inside Ukraine is a general named Shiko, but it's really unknown. Russia hasn't publicized that. Okay, now we're going on to the sanctions of Russian energy and how it's affecting. So we have Nord Stream 1. This is Russian. This is oil and gas that goes to Europe. And I guess a lot of people in Europe now are waking up to the fact that next winter their children might be freezing and starving. Yeah. You need to rise up, people of Europe. All right. Okay, so this needed repair. And Canada was saying, no, you're not getting what you need from Canada to do this. Apparently in Canada was a special turbine manufactured. Now, Canada is backing off of this because I think the people in Europe are rising up saying to their leaders, stop this. So now Canada is going to allow the turbine to be made in Canada and shipped to the German company Siemens so they can repair this Nord Stream and get the oil and gas flowing again. Yeah. So that's going on. Okay, now, Zelensky, the non-human leader of Ukraine, according to Decode, is non-human. Yes, we're going to put together a 1 million person army and mount up a Ukraine offensive in August. I got news for you, Mr. Zelensky, who we understand is not inside Ukraine, but rather at his $34 million villa in Florida, that I don't think you're gonna have until August. All right. And yeah, they're recruiting the dissidents from Russia and Belarus and women. Okay, now Dr. William Mount is bringing this information out. Dr. Mount is ex-U.S. military. He'd been a former ambassador to Ukraine. He knows a lot. All right. Last night, that would have been July 11, about midnight, there was an emergency meeting at the Kremlin. And what was it to discuss? Inside Ukraine, Dr. Mount had previously said there were 10,000 U.S. military, and that some of these individuals, it was a U.S. team who fired up HIMARS from inside Ukraine to inside Russia, right here. And, taking out oil and gas and killing civilians. All right, inside Russia. Russia considers that an act of war. Now, so what's happening now is the CIPS nations who are operating with that international money exchange system, CIPS, that's outside the Five Eyes, the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and so on, who use an international money exchange system called SWIFT. So the CIPS constitutes 160 nations now who are not importing or exporting to the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. The SWIFT nations. Okay, so what's happening now is that all of these 160 nations are going to ban all exports to the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. So that's also something that occurs preparatory to global events. All right. Now, this is going on according to Dr. Mount. Here we have Ukraine, we have Belarus, we have Russia, we have Poland, we have Romania, we have Hungary. All right. In Kiev, that's the capital of Ukraine. So from here to here, inside Ukraine, we have U.S. military who have placed bombs inside Ukraine on the border of Belarus. Now, Poland wants a part of Ukraine, as does Romania and Hungary. And a few hours ago, that would have been late last night, this is July 12, so late July 11, the Russian government is going to give Russian citizenship to all of Ukraine. So we see a change in the Russian special military operation inside Ukraine. Initially, it was to take and protect most of eastern Ukraine. Now it's to take all of Ukraine. So all citizens inside Ukraine can now become Russian citizens. All right. So that was decided late last night. So we see another move. All right. Now we have this. We have, So Russia initially, was to stop the aggression in Luhansk and Donetsk it was the U.S. shadow government military, the shadow NATO nations, who had put 120 to 150,000 troops along this border at the end of February, with the idea of going in here and slaughtering the Slavic civilians, an act of genocide. So that's when the Russian military went in. Okay. And this decision, so inside Russia, we have that late night meeting last night, and then something is going to happen July 15 with a formal get-together of the Russian Parliament. And Dr. William Mount is saying it's possible it will be to take out the command centers of the shadow U.S. government, military, shadow NATO. And he's saying that, so Russia, we're looking at July 15 with its parliament. This is a heads up to take out the command centers. And inside the U.S., that would be Fort McPherson. That's located in Atlanta, Georgia. That would be a command center that's located in Denver, Colorado. And these are deep state shadow command centers. And also Langley, Virginia. So if you're in any of these areas, Atlanta, Georgia, Denver, Colorado, or Langley, Virginia, you might want to give some thought to prepping and maybe going somewhere else. And supposedly July 15, we see this rhetoric coming out about Russia has these submarines that could hit, virtually anywhere. Okay, we're getting information. So that's going on. Now, what this is also prompting is different leaders being taken out. Macron, who's a double, we understand. The leader of the Netherlands, the leader of, we would reasonably expect Canada and the U.S. pretty soon. All right, now, so President Putin, this is still coming from Dr. William Mount, his generals want a declaration of the W word. We understand YouTube doesn't like the W word. All right. Now, Dr. William Mount is saying that the shadow U.S. government has sent 7 Davy Crockett's from the U.S. into Ukraine. That would be nukes or nuclear type weapons. And that the U.S. has used U.S. military inside Ukraine to send the HIMARS, those long-range missiles, from inside Ukraine into inside Russia. Yeah. So Dr. William Mount is bringing that out. Now, President Putin and Russia's position is they have not yet begun to fight. They've been using basically reserves. And that once they fully mount up, and I would say they're getting ready to fully mount up and take all of Ukraine by their saying that all Ukraine citizens can now become Russian citizens. Once they do that, they'll take down the electrical grid inside Ukraine. They will turn off their nuclear reactors and take out all of their command centers. So that build-up inside Belarus, close to Kiev, might be part of that plan. And also the U.S. military inside Ukraine then putting the bombs along the border of Ukraine and Belarus. Yeah. Okay, so now, is there a plan then for Russia to invade the U.S.? I think that was Monkey Works yesterday, was talking about the buildup. That was in This is South America. We have Brazil, we have Venezuela. So, yeah, but once again, President Trump is working with President Putin and Chairman Xi, and so this is coming out. So inside the U.S., from Russian intel to Dr. William Out, in the next 72 hours, we may see a JB go away and President Trump come in. So next 72 hours, and this began like midnight of 7/11, so we'll say 7/12 forward to 7/15 or so. So yeah, that's coming out. All right. It's an exciting time to be alive. And now we know what to pray for. Okay. Yeah. Got that all done. So that's taking care of our news section. Now we'll go on to sci-fi. Okay. Now, Israeli News Live, Stephen Bannon, formerly with the CIA, now has a ministry, but regularly meets with the Pentagon, gets up-to-date information, said. Now, he and his wife, Jenna, had been on a trip. They didn't give details about, but my perception is it was in California. And my perception, once again, is that they were getting some new information about different shadow topics. All right. Now, one of them was he said he did come out with this, he could use night vision, and he could see the UFOs, and they appeared to be over New Mexico. Dulce. A lot of us UFO buffs are familiar with that. Okay. Now, Stephen is coming out with this information, which is new to me. He says the U.S. government military is using nukes, and they do that to bore holes inside the earth that goes all the way down almost to the center of the earth, and that they then dump raw sewage, and we know that raw sewage would have a lot of different gases in it, into these holes, and they do that to generate steam, and we're familiar with the concept of thermal energy, to make electricity. Now, Stephen didn't elaborate this, but I'm assuming they're going to all this preparation to make these holes and get the inside the earth and generate, that it must be generate electricity for what? I think it must be those deep underground areas. That seems logical to me. But I don't know why Stephen is bringing this out now. All right. So now he's saying that the U.S. shadow government wants to use larger nukes to make the holes larger. And now Stephen is bringing this out about different celestial events to occur in the future. And he's saying that 2050 was to have been the kill shot. It's either from the sun or some object in space impacting the earth. And that some effects are to occur this year. And I will say this, that from suspicious observers, a science-based space weather program, that he is presenting information that the Earth is spinning faster and that our days are shorter. Now, for me, I live along the south coast of Texas. I keep noticing at night it's light outside later and later. And so now it's about 9:15 before it gets dark outside, and then it's light again about 6:30. So we can see, yeah, we're not having 12-hour periods of light and dark. So there is evidence for some Earth changes. I can see it now. And Stephen is bringing this out. 2026 is supposed to be ET disclosure. And he's describing them as fallen angels, and then they mated with humans. They made the Nephilim, the hybrids. Okay, he's saying in 2026, they wanted to do the Project Blue Beam. Here's Jesus, and we're your saviors. We created you. No, lies. So, Stephen is bringing this out. Now, in sci-fi with Simon Parks, yeah. So Simon Parks is saying this: God created humans. And then there were ETs that came along with genetic manipulation, which God despises. Yeah, and made hybrids, and Simon Parks is bringing this out, and I'll explain it to you. That humans in the past could do things like telekinesis, move things with their mind, telepathy, travel by thought, and so on. Okay, now, this information came out, gene decode, that Adam and Eve had 64-strand DNA. Yes, and some of the things they could do. And also Jesus, who many call Yeshua, had 64-strand DNA. All right, and he could do these things. Much of what Jesus did in his ministry on earth was a natural product of having 64-strand human DNA. Now, he did do his God thing when he was on the cross and took his soul and his spirit out and went down into hell and took Satan and took his keys and death and hell, and also preached to the saints who had gone to paradise inside the earth, waiting for their Messiah, Savior, King, Jesus, his God thing. So humans created, and I believe that Jesus, who many call Yeshua, was created the same way as Adam, directly by God. I don't believe Jesus had any Mary genetics, and that then he was placed in the womb of Mary by the Holy Spirit to fulfill the prophecy of virgin birth. Okay, Simon Parks. Yes, God created humans, and we are, and I have demonstrated this before about the current 6,000-year timeline from Adam and Eve and Jesus. Yes. Does that mean that God had not created humans in the past, perhaps trillions of years ago, on the trillions of planets and stars and universes? No, it doesn't. But it currently, and I put forth this teaching, humans 2.0, because in the past we had Atlantis that was taken out by an extinction level event by God, based on genetic manipulation, which God despises. Okay. But when Gene Decode came out with this information, that correlated with the information I had received from God when I was young, and I could see Adam and Eve and perceive some of the abilities that they had that lines up with this. Okay, so it's all coming together. But the point is, God created humans first, we understand from many sources, and then he created other species. And according to Gene Decode, in our DNA, we carry the etheric spirit blueprint for all other species. We were created in the image of God, and I have a Patriot subscriber who had a similar experience with God, like Gene Decode, who said, we are the only species who's created in the image of God. We think, we speak, we create reality. And it is our job also to bring the good news of the one Messiah, Savior, King, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, to all species. Okay, so now I'm seeing other people coming out with this stand. God created humans, not the ETs. Which is a lie they're trying to put forth. Okay. Now, in Galactic Talk, Jessica Ariel Morocco is giving information out about the ACIO, Alien Contact Intel Organization, a division of the U.S. government, the NSA. Well, we were going to tell you about the ET. Okay. Right. You're controlling information. Now, she's talking about a certain division of this group, Division 80 to 140, that had agreements with ETs, and some of them were good ETs, are non-terrestrial, some were neutral, and some were hostile, invasive, wanted to destroy us and kill us. But don't let anyone with the U.S. government try, well, there certainly are probably employees of the U.S. government who don't know about this, but certain segments of the U.S. government know about it, and this group, part of the NSA, part of the U.S. government, has agreements with different intergalactic councils, Council of 22, of 12, of 7, of 5, of 10. You know, we don't know even the species or the agreements, and we, the people of the earth, need to know explicitly what's going on. Now, Dr. Michael Salla is saying this. Okay, so Dr. Michael Salla did an interview recently, and it was talking about ancient documents and stories and references imply that ETs created humans, which is not true. But this was an ET long-term program to embed in certain ancient documents and thus become history. Yeah, we created you. Now, Dr. Michael Salla is talking about some information that came out recently from 23 chambers found in Chaco Canyon in New Mexico about a group called the Wing Makers, and that the NSA via the ACIO had worked to suppress information, the NSA through the ACIO has killed people in the past to keep them from bringing out information about ETs and the shadow CIA and all these shadow groups. Okay. Now, Dr. Michael Salla is saying that from this wind maker information from Chaco Canyon, it was talking about humans having 5 senses, and number 6 was intuition, and number 7, he was talking about, travel by thought. And Jesus did that too while he was on the earth. So, things are coming together and supporting one another. And we're finding out, so many things have been withheld from us. Now, let's talk about nukes in New York City. So this is a heads up. This news section God put in about 6 weeks ago. All right. Reality 365. He's on YouTube. And also Fox News is bringing out this information that on TV in New York City they had a PSA, public service announcement, that lasted for 1.5 minutes to the people of New York City. This just happened yesterday, July 11, 2022. 3 steps to take if we have a nuclear event in New York City. Get inside, stay inside, and stay tuned. And they're also giving information about, if you get this radioactive dust and stuff on your clothes, take them off, put them in a bag, shower. So, Now, and Israeli News Live, Stephen Benin, I was talking about this, and this came out several months ago. Stephen came out brought this information out that inside New York City, warnings had gone out to the Jewish Orthodox community, and that they were sending their children and young adults out of New York City. And Stephen related that, the Jewish people had been warned before 9/11, don't go to work in the World Trade Center on that day. So Stephen brought this up, and he's talking about the Pentagon has been tracking what's called a dirty nuke. And typically these are smaller nukes, dirty nukes. All right. But it has some kind of cloak device or around it that keeps it from being tracked exactly. So the Pentagon has intel that there's a dirty nuke inside New York City, but they're having trouble tracking it. Now, so Stephen is bringing this out, that it's a shadow plan, deep state plan to have a nuke go off in New York City and then blame Russia and get that World War III going. All right, now we had, and this is another example of how news is orchestrated, because recently Decode, he had made a video that came out maybe 3 to 6 months ago, and then was also brought forward again on another site, Beforeitsnews. But this is part of the orchestration of news. Take an old event and bring it forward to current news outlets. Okay, So I take note. I give God the credit for that, so I see patterns. All right, so Gene then brought this out that it's old but brought forward new, that anywhere on Earth where a nuke is generated, so here we have on Earth, so we know we have a space force. Okay, within 1 minute of launch of a nuke or a nuke type modern weapon, this can be ID'd, the location, but also the source, where the nuke material came from and when. So that's going on, so they can identify that. So now, yeah, and so Stephen Benin is bringing this out, that in New York City, and that goes along with that public service announcement. In New York City, FEMA is going to do drills right now for a nuclear evac of New York City. I think if I lived in New York City, you know, I'd be making some kind of plans or something, for sure. Now, Monkey Works is coming out with this information that in South America, yeah, I knew about the Russian troops and I knew about the Chinese troops in Venezuela and Nicaragua. What I didn't know about was Iran had troops there too, and equipment in Nicaragua and Venezuela and other areas of South America. Okay, so that concludes our heads up. That's enough, isn't it? Okay, let's move ahead to look ahead, because we want some good information. But we do see things coalescing and great things on the horizon. Okay, I have a Patriot subscriber who says, I heard JB was really taken out July 1, and that the military had recognized President Trump from March of 2021 as the commander-in-chief, and that an announcement is going to be made by the Supreme Court soon, that President Trump is our president, and that the November 2020 event is going to be decertified and there's no need for a new election. And I have this from another source. This is N Veniamin, who interviewed David Mahoney. He's talking about 40 states he understands are ready to decertify the November 2020 event. Now, Dr. William Mount is bringing this out, that the farmers are revolting in the Netherlands, also called Holland, and next will be Poland, Estonia, Italy. Farmers rising up for the same reason. And that Sri Lanka, the reason their goods were cut off is they wouldn't pay money to the Rothschild banking system. Now we have sources, Dr. William Mount, Simon Parks, N Veniamin's interview of David Mahoney, that JB will be out soon, and then will come Macron, and we have that information also from Michael Jaco. Now, this is new to me, that Governor Abbott of Texas and Governor is a double. I had not heard that. I had heard that Governor Newsom of California was a double or a clone, but not about Abbott. All right. Now, Judy Byington is coming out with this, that the Supreme Court ruling of the 2020, November 2020 event was invalid, and that 130 to 140 nations are now gold or other asset-backed currency, and that correlates to that 160 CIPS nations not exporting nor importing, actually, to the U.S. or Canada, Australia, New Zealand, others that are still on the SWIFT system. Judy Byington is hearing JB out, President Trump in. And that monkey works is a bioweapon, and I had that report from a Patriot subscriber. Yeah, they've had their first case in Auckland, Australia. All right, of monkey pox. Okay, now we have information about a U.S. military, the U.S., some parts of the U.S. government, the U.S. military, yeah, we had been controlled by foreign powers. That was the deep state. We know that, yeah. That Europe is going to collapse. The deep state, Jesuits, Masons, Rothschilds, Davos, the shadow, NATO, is going to be exposed and collapse. And that inside global militaries inside their own nation are the good part, the white part hats, are arresting their own corrupt leaders inside their nations. And we see that the EBS may be coming on soon. So we see a look ahead. Looks very good. I mean, all these global events are taking place, but we know who is in charge and who's on the move. That would be God. Okay, a short prayer. Here's a cleansing prayer modeled by Decode. I remove permission to be in us, on us, around us, on earth, off world, any dimension, any person, place, or thing not of God, any assemblage of fallen angels, AI, nanobot, and other forms of tech, any non-terrestrial species, spirit, thought form, operating system, genetic overlay, past, present, and future. So this prayer is from the Passion Translation, Hebrews chapter 3. And the name of it is Remain Steady. In the desert, the Lord said, don't harden your heart. Search your hearts daily and pray and receive love and guidance from God. Since we are flesh and blood, Jesus whom many call Yeshua came to earth in human form to fully identify with us. Jesus whom many call Yeshua did this so he could experience death, and he could go down into hell to take from Satan the keys of hell and death. Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, annihilated the accuser, Satan, and Satan's power of death. By embracing death, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, sets us free from bondage, and Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, is our faithful king priest before God. He, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, suffered life's trials so he could help us every time we face the ordeals of life. So remain steady. And we thank you, Father, Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge and he is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.